And that's the writers just would demand that of us. We want to hear it in your words now. We want you to continue to push down that road. And our writers were brilliant. And very often the scenes were very similar to what they wrote, but the words wouldn't all be the same. Then I got to The Good Wife, where everything had to be word perfect. And they are more of a traditional television set with incredible actors, which we had on Friday Night Lights, but working way differently. So watching Christine Baranski and Julianna Margulies and, working with them was just so much different. And Matt Sukri is one of the hardest workers in the industry. And he would stay in night after night and just hammer his words. And I wasn't cut out for it at first. So that was a really jarring change for me. But still, like, I needed it. I don't have any professional training. I didn't go to school to be an actor. I've never had a coach. I've never really taken classes. So learning on the day and taking what I could from all these incredibly talented actors that I got to work with on Friday Night Lights and The Good Wife really equipped me for multiple, ways of working in this industry going forward. So eternally grateful for both of those things. But yeah, it was very jarring.
Do you want to do more music now? You said like, there's, it's fluid these days. You were just on because of this. Is this kind of jarred that in you?
It has. I mean, I think I said on the show, like, I want this door to remain open. Now that people know I can sing, hopefully more opportunities will come along. Does that mean I'm going to go record an album right away? I don't know. Like, does that mean I'm going to go on tour? I mean, I've got a family, at this point. So maybe some of these things are not in the cards, but maybe there's some really fun, interesting opportunities that are musically driven. And I just want to do it more and more. I want to make it more of a priority. And whether it's local or it's worldwide, like try and do something where I'm singing, monthly instead of every other year. You know what I mean?
Right. Baby steps, right?
Yeah.
Well, a total self-indulgent part of your career for me is Heart of Dixie. I mean, great show. Where is George Tucker today?
Oh, yeah. George Tucker, happily married. Annabeth and him probably, tied the knot. And, it's an interesting thing because Friday Night Lights was so much about Coach Taylor, Coach Taylor, Coach Taylor until the very end where he said, "Where are you going?" And on Heart of Dixie, George Tucker was very much about, "I've come home. I'm here. I'm going to be home. I'm going to help people. I'm going to help people." He's very much about himself and he was focused. And when Annabeth had to go, he said, "All right, let's go." And they went together. So, um, you know, practicing law, helping the little guy, but, you know, probably married and with family, I'd say at this point. So, yeah.
There's so much talk always like every few years about like Friday Night Lights and maybe let's try to do something like what about Heart of Dixie? Like, should we call Rachel Bilson? Should we maybe get a movie going, maybe a reboot?
I just got a text this morning from Wilson Bethel and Lila Gerstein, who was Heart of Dixie's creator and showrunner for all 4 seasons. They watched the finale of The Masked Singer together last night. Um, our bonds from that cast are still very tight. I talked to Rachel and Wilson a lot. I just was texting with Cress not too long ago. And it is a show that we would all love to do again. And it's a show that I feel like TV needs more of nowadays. It's not superhero driven, it's not crime driven, it's not dark and gritty. It is just an escape. It is just a supportive, you know, I don't know, warm blanket of a TV show that you can wrap around yourself. And I feel like there's not enough of that on air nowadays. And there's not enough options like that. I think there used to be, but we were one of the last ones that kind of felt that way. So, I would love to see it come back. And I think everybody else would love to as well. It's just finding a home for it.
I would agree with that. Because I know I read an article today since, it's been revealed that you were Gumball, your Ginny and Georgia co-stars. I guess some of them knew it was you. Like, did other people, like other co-stars or just people in your life know that you were Gumball? Did they figure it out? Because the judges certainly had a hard time.
It was funny last week. We were filming in a small town outside of Toronto where all of us had to stay in a tiny hotel. Um, and I showed up in the makeup trailer the next morning, and Brienne was getting her makeup done. And I walked in, and she looked at me with a different look than I'd seen from her in a while. And she goes, when I was in my room last night, I was flipping through the channels. I ended up on The Masked Singer, and that voice sounded very familiar. And I was like, in the makeup trailer was so much other cast and the makeup and hair artists on our show. And I was like, oh, really? Well, that's interesting. Yeah, no, a lot of, I mean, I've been guessed, but I mean, there's a lot of other really good guesses. So having to play it coy, but there wasn't really much of it in my life. It was more for me, the bigger focus was less on friends or old castmates or anybody figuring me out. It was trying to make sure that the people that meant the most to me were actually watching the show. I knew my mom would never forgive me if I didn't try to get her watching this show. I couldn't tell her it was me, but I told them that, the kids are watching Masked Singer. They absolutely love it. They want to have, uh, a call once a week and talk to you about the show. And she was like, okay, yeah, I'll watch it for the grandkids. So she started watching it. Then she fell in love with it. Then she binged 8 out of the 10 seasons before our season was even over. She'd watch episode of season 11 and then go back and watch a whole season and then watch an episode, an episode of season 11, go watch the next season. So she fell in love with the whole format of the show. She had never watched it before, but it took her about 3 weeks to put 2 and 2 together and go, I got a phone call. Honey, are you on the show? I was like, Mom, I can't tell you, but pay close attention to the clues and listen very closely to what Gumball has to say. Maybe you'll figure it out. So that was awesome. And the kids, they figured me out in one day.
Really?
They
Wow.
Yeah, they heard my voice, but for my daughter, it was the spider on the mushroom clue because I had done a Spider-Man cartoon that she was familiar with. And for my son, that little snooper, as part of my wrap gift from Team Gumball, which I got this shirt from the incredible team that I worked with on the show, Allison and Nate and Erica, Jess and Anthony. I just want to give them a shout out. But they gave me this, and they gave me a Gumball machine that has the Masked Singer emblem on it. I brought it home and I hid it. I tucked it away in a shelf that I thought my son would never see. And he had squirreled away some of this Halloween candy up there that I did not know about. I guess he went to go get some of his candy and saw it. So he goes, Dad, when he gets home from school, Dad, come here. And he takes me over to the shelf and he goes, what's this Gumball machine here? Why does this look like the logo for the show? I was like, okay, all right, kids, you got me,
You're like,
but you
sit
can't tell
down.
anybody. And they were so good. They didn't tell anybody, but it was a really incredible thing to watch the show with them. And I got to be home from work for the episode when I sing I Lived, which is a song I dedicated to them. And I got to sit on the couch with them when I was performing it. And there's nothing that means more in the world to me than that. So it wasn't so much about casts or friends. It was about family.
That's a great way to wrap up. Last question as we wrap up. You were in
Yeah.
Band Slam. Vanessa Hudgens was in Band Slam.